Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Liberty. Through the large window, he watched the last group of human ships disappear into the darkness of space. They were leaving forever, and nobody in the galaxy knew why. The evacuation had been going on for 3 months. Every human colony outside the solar system was being abandoned. Every human worker was coming home. Every human diplomat was packing up and leaving. Admiral Lisa Hayes had given the order, and now it was almost complete. Jake remembered the meeting where Lisa had explained the plan. She had been angry, but her voice was calm and cold. "We're done being their servants," she had said. "We're done solving their problems while they treat us like we're nothing." For 40 years, humans had been the galaxy's problem solvers. When the tall blue Zephyrians couldn't fix their power plants, they called humans. When the warrior Korthek couldn't stop fighting each other, they asked humans to help make peace. When the crystal beings called the Vex couldn't have babies anymore, human scientists worked day and night to save their species. The aliens always said thank you, but it was never real thanks. They acted like humans were lucky to help. They spoke to humans like they were talking to useful pets. At big meetings, they made humans sit in the back. When they handed out rewards, humans got the smallest share. Commander Beth Collins was working at the control center on Luna Base, Earth's moon. She was watching the computer screens that showed the last humans leaving alien worlds. The numbers kept going down. 500 humans left on Zephyrian worlds. 200. 100. 50. 0. "All clear on the outer rim," Beth reported into her headset. "The last transport just jumped to hyperspace." Beth felt strange watching the numbers drop to 0. Humans had built so much out there. They had designed amazing buildings. They had fixed broken machines. They had taught alien children. They had saved lives. And now they were leaving it all behind, but they weren't really leaving it all behind. Dr. Ryan Parker had made sure of that. Ryan was the head of the Terran Science Division, and he was very smart. For the past 5 years, he had been doing something special with every piece of human technology. Ryan had built secret commands into everything humans made. Every power plant had hidden computer code. Every medical machine had secret programming. Every communication system had invisible switches. And all of these secrets were controlled from human computers back on Earth. "Are you ready, Ryan?" Jake asked into his communicator. "Ready, Captain," Ryan's voice came back. "All systems are armed and waiting for your command." Jake looked at the star map on his screen. Red dots showed where human technology was working on alien worlds. There were thousands of dots. The aliens had no idea how much they needed human machines to keep their worlds running. "Lisa, this is Jake," he said into his headset. "We're in position." Admiral Lisa Hayes was sitting in her office on Earth. She had been planning this moment for years. She had watched alien leaders dismiss human ideas in meetings. She had seen them give humans the hardest jobs and the least respect. She had listened to them joke about how eager humans were to help, as if helping was a weakness. "All units, this is Admiral Hayes," Lisa spoke into her communicator. "Execute Protocol 7. Across the galaxy, something began to happen. On the Zephyrian homeworld, computer screens in the capital city began showing the same message. License expired, returning to manufacturer. The city's power plants started shutting down one by one on Korthek warships. Weapon systems displayed error messages. Service contract terminated. Contact your local representative for renewal. The mighty weapons that had kept peace in 3-star systems went dark. In Vex laboratories, the machines that helped their species reproduce showed new warnings. Authorized personnel only, access denied. The crystal beings watched in horror as their most important technology stopped working. Dr. Ryan Parker sat in his laboratory on Earth, watching reports come in from across the galaxy. Every piece of human technology was following its programmed commands. Some machines shut down completely. Others switched to emergency mode. A few just started asking for passwords that only humans knew. "How long before they figure out what's happening?" Beth asked. She was still at Luna Base, monitoring communications from alien worlds. The smart ones will know in a few hours, Ryan answered. The rest might take days. But they'll all figure it out soon enough. Jake was proud of his people. The evacuation had been perfect. No human had been left behind. No alien had been hurt. No human technology had been damaged. But every piece of human innovation was now locked away from the species that had taken it for granted. Commander Alex Turner was commanding the border patrol ships at the edge of human space. His job was to watch for alien ships trying to enter the solar system. He didn't have to wait long. Captain, we've got incoming ships, his communications officer reported. 3 Zephyrian vessels moving fast. Alex had been expecting this. The aliens would want answers. They would want their technology back. They would want humans to fix their problems like always. Send them the standard message, Alex ordered. The message was simple and had been recorded by Admiral Hayes herself. Humanity is withdrawing from all galactic affairs. We are no longer available for consultation or assistance. Please direct all inquiries to your local problem-solving department. Do not attempt to enter human space. The Zephyrian ships stopped when they received the message. Alex could imagine the confusion on their bridges. For 40 years, humans had always been available. They had always been willing to help. They had always answered when called. Not anymore. Back on Earth, President Mary Thompson was meeting with her advisors. The plan was working perfectly, but she knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would not give up easily. They would try to force humans to help. They would make threats. They would make promises. They would do everything except the one thing that might actually work. How long do you think before they start offering us real respect? Asked Secretary of Defense Paul Harrison. Could be months, Mary replied. Could be years. Depends on how stubborn they are. Dr. Linda Stone, the chief science officer, was reviewing the technical reports. The Vex are already in serious trouble. Their reproduction systems are completely dependent on our biotechnology. They have maybe 6 months before it becomes a real crisis. Mary nodded. She didn't enjoy the thought of alien suffering, but humans had tried the polite way for decades. They had asked for respect. They had requested fair treatment. They had suggested better ways to work together. The aliens had ignored every attempt at dignity. Now they would learn what the galaxy looked like without human help. Jake Morrison looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, alien worlds were dealing with power failures, broken machines, and systems they couldn't fix. Somewhere out there, alien leaders were realizing that the simple humans they had dismissed were actually the most important species in the galaxy. The humans had left without a word of explanation. No angry speeches, no demands, no ultimatums. They had simply packed up and gone home, taking their solutions with them. Now the galaxy would learn what it meant to lose the one species that had always been willing to help. The aliens had never thought to ask what would happen if humans just stopped caring about their problems. They were about to find out. Senator Craig Hamilton stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. The tall building on the neutral world of Nexus Prime had been the center of galactic politics for over 200 years. Today, it felt like everything was falling apart. Craig was a human, but he was not part of the evacuation. He had been born on Nexus Prime and held citizenship there. He was allowed to stay as a neutral observer, watching as the alien species panicked over what humanity had done. "Order! Order!" shouted Chancellor Kesvelthera, the leader of the Zephyrian Republic. Her blue skin was darker than usual, which meant she was stressed. "We must address this crisis immediately." The Great Hall was full of alien representatives, but it was chaos. Everyone was talking at once. Some were angry. Some were scared. Some were confused. None of them seemed to understand what had really happened. General Thrackmore of the Korthic Empire stood up. He was 8 feet tall and covered in thick armor. His voice boomed across the hall. "The humans have betrayed us. They have sabotaged our equipment and abandoned their duties." "Duties?" asked Zix Prime 9, speaking for the Vex Collective. The crystal being's voice was like music, but today it sounded sad. "What duties?" They never signed contracts that said they had to help. U.S.? Craig watched the argument with interest. For 40 years, the aliens had treated human help like it was their right. They had never asked if humans wanted to help. They had never offered fair payment. They had just expected humans to solve their problems. On the Zephyrian homeworld, the situation was getting worse every hour. Engineer Velkas stood in the control room of Central Power Plant 7. The facility provided electricity to 3 million people in the capital city. Now it was running on emergency power, and the emergency wouldn't last long. How long until complete shutdown? Asked Director Morha. 6 hours, maybe 7, Velkas replied. The human-designed fusion reactors are locked out of the main system. We can't access the control codes. Can't we just bypass the human systems? Velkas looked at her superior with tired eyes. Sir, the human systems are the main system. Everything else is just accessories. Without their technology, we have nothing. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. On Korthek warships, weapons officers stared at blank screens. On Vex research stations, scientists watched their life-saving equipment shut down. On dozens of worlds, the infrastructure that kept billions alive was failing. Captain Danny Brooks was patrolling the edge of human space in his ship, the UES Guardian. His job was to turn away any alien vessels that tried to enter the solar system. He had been busy. Captain, we've got another group incoming, reported his tactical officer. 12 ships this time. Mixed fleet, looks like Zephyrian, Korthek, and Vex vessels. Danny looked at the tactical display. The alien ships were flying in formation, which was unusual. Normally, these three species couldn't agree on anything. The crisis must be bringing them together. Open a channel, Danny ordered. The view screen showed 3 alien faces. Chancellor Kesvel-Thara looked tired. General Thrackmore looked angry. Zix-9 looked desperate. Captain Brooks, the Chancellor began, we need to speak with your government immediately. Our worlds are in crisis. I'm sorry, Chancellor. Danny replied politely, but humans are no longer available for consultation. You'll need to solve your own problems. This is not a request, General Thrackmore growled. This is a demand from the Galactic Council. Danny almost smiled. General, with respect, the Galactic Council has no authority over humanity. We never signed any treaties that said we had to help you. But you always helped before, Zix-9 said softly. Why did you stop? Maybe you should ask yourselves. That question, Danny answered. Then he cut the communication. Back on Earth, President Mary Thompson was in her office with her advisors. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy, and the situation was developing faster than anyone had expected. The Zephyrian Republic has lost power in 6 major cities, reported Dr. Linda Stone. Their government is asking for emergency assistance. The Korthek Empire is dealing with a rebellion in the outer systems, added Secretary of Defense Paul Harrison. Without their weapon systems, they can't maintain order. And the Vex situation is critical, Dr. Stone continued. Their reproduction facilities are completely offline. They're facing species extinction. Mary listened to the reports with mixed feelings. She felt sorry for the ordinary alien citizens who were suffering. But she also remembered decades of human diplomats being ignored, human workers being treated poorly, and human innovations being taken for granted. Any word from Ambassador Helen Rodriguez? Mary asked. Helen had been humanities representative to the Galactic Council for 12 years. She had been recalled 3 months ago, just before the evacuation began. Her replacement had never been sent. She's been contacted by 17 different alien governments, Paul reported. They're all demanding explanations. And what is she? Telling them? Nothing. She's following protocol. All inquiries are being directed to their local problem-solving departments. On the Korthak homeworld, the situation was becoming dangerous. The Empire controlled 50 star systems through military might. But military might required working weapons, and working weapons required human technology. Admiral Krasthal stood on the bridge of the battleship Dominator. It was the most powerful ship in the Korthak fleet, but right now it was just a very expensive piece of metal floating in space. Status report, he demanded. Main weapons are offline, reported his weapons. Officer. Navigation systems are running on backup power. Life support is stable, but we can't access the maintenance protocols. How is this possible? We are the Korthic Empire. We have conquered 100 worlds, yes sir. But we conquered them with human-designed weapons and human-trained soldiers. Without human support, we're just another species with big muscles and small brains. The weapons officer regretted his words immediately, but Admiral Krasthal didn't punish him. The truth was too obvious to ignore. Dr. Ryan Parker was in his laboratory on Earth, monitoring the situation through the galaxy's communication networks. He had spent 5 years preparing for this moment. Every piece of human technology had been designed with hidden dependencies and remote shutdown capabilities. How are the systems holding up? Asked his assistant, Dr. Carol Martinez. Perfect. Ryan replied. The shutdown protocols are working exactly as planned. No permanent damage to the equipment, but complete loss of functionality. Do you think they'll try to reverse engineer our technology? Ryan laughed. They can try. But our designs are based on human thinking patterns and human problem-solving methods. Even if they had the technical knowledge, they don't have the right kind of minds. On the neutral world of Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was holding another emergency session. This time, they were trying to understand what had gone wrong. Let's review the facts, said Chancellor Kesvel Thara. 3 months ago, humans began evacuating their colonies. 2 weeks ago, their technology started failing. Yesterday, they sealed their borders. Today, we're facing the worst crisis in galactic history. The question is why, said General Thrackmore. Humans have always been eager to help. They've always been grateful for the opportunity to serve. Maybe that's the problem, said Zix Prime 9. Maybe we mistook cooperation for servitude. The alien leaders sat in silence, thinking about decades of interactions with humans. They remembered dismissing human ideas in meetings. They remembered giving humans the hardest jobs and smallest rewards. They remembered treating human eagerness to help as a sign of weakness. We need to contact them, the Chancellor said finally. We need to negotiate. With what leverage? Asked the General. They have all the technology. They have all the solutions. What do we have to offer? We have our apologies, Zix Prime 9 said softly. Maybe that's where we should start, but apologies would not be enough. The humans had made their point clearly. They had left without a word, and now the galaxy was paying the price. The aliens were beginning to understand that the simple humans they had dismissed were actually the most important species in known space. The reckoning had begun, and it was going to change everything. 3 months had passed since the humans disappeared. The galaxy was falling apart, and everyone knew it. What had started as technical problems was now a full disaster that threatened the survival of entire civilizations. Chancellor Kesvel Thara stood in the ruins of her capital city's main district. The beautiful crystal towers that had powered the Zephyrian homeworld for centuries were dark and cold. Without human-designed fusion reactors, the city had no electricity. Without electricity, there was no heat, no light, no communication systems. How many people have we lost? She asked her aide, Minister Jorkaz. 12,000 in the capital alone, Jorkaz replied sadly. The outer cities are worse. We estimate 50,000 dead across the planet. The Chancellor closed her eyes. Her people were dying because they had no power for their medical facilities. The elderly and sick were the first to go, but healthy Zephyrians were also suffering. Their blue skin was turning gray from the cold. Have we made any progress in repairing the human systems? None. Our best engineers have been working around. The clock? They say the technology is too complex. It's like trying to fix a machine when you don't understand how it was built. On the other side of the galaxy, General Thrackmore was facing his own crisis. The Korthic Empire was built on strength and military power. But strength meant nothing when your weapons didn't work. Report, he growled at his communication officer. The Outer Rim Rebellion has spread to 6 more systems, the officer replied nervously. The Valthan colonies have declared independence. The Morgak sector is in complete chaos. How many ships do we have that are still functional? 17. Sir, out of 3,000. General Thrackmore wanted to roar with anger, but he knew it would do no good. The humans had built their technology into every part of Korthik society. Weapons, ships, communication systems, even the computers that managed food distribution, everything depended on human innovation. Sir, the communication officer continued, we're receiving reports that some of our member species are trying to contact the humans directly. And the humans are ignoring them. Every message gets the same automatic response. Humanity is not available for consultation. The Vex were in the worst situation of all. Their entire species was at risk of extinction. Dr. Nix 7 Alpha stood in the empty reproduction facility on their homeworld. The machines that had helped their people have children for 30 years were silent and dark. How long do we have? Asked Elder Zix Prime 9. Our population scientists estimate 6 months, Dr. Nix 7 Alpha replied. After that, we won't be able to produce enough offspring to maintain our species. And there's no way to repair the human systems? None. The biotechnology is beyond our understanding. We know how to use it, but we never learned how to build it or fix it. The Vex had always been proud of their crystal technology and their collective intelligence. But their pride had made them dependent on others for the most basic need of any species, the ability to reproduce. Captain Danny Brooks was still patrolling the edge of human space. Every day brought new groups of alien ships, and every day he turned them away. But the aliens were getting more desperate, and their requests were getting more interesting. Captain, we have incoming ships, reported his tactical officer. But these aren't military vessels, they're transports. Danny looked at the tactical display. 20 alien ships were approaching, but they weren't carrying weapons. They were carrying cargo. Open a channel, Danny ordered. The view screen showed. Chancellor Casvelthera again. But this time she looked different. Her proud bearing was gone. She looked tired and defeated. Captain Brooks, she began, we're not here to make demands. We're here to offer gifts. What kind of gifts? Art treasures from our homeworld, rare minerals from our outer colonies, historical artifacts that are thousands of years old. Please. We just need someone to talk to us. Danny felt sorry for the Chancellor, but his orders were clear. I'm sorry, Chancellor, we're not interested in gifts. Humanity has withdrawn from galactic affairs, but people are dying. She cried, my people are dying, the Korthik people are dying. The Vex are facing extinction. Surely you can't ignore that. We ignored human suffering for 40 years, Danny replied quietly. You'll have to figure out how to solve your own problems. Back on Earth, Dr. Susan Carter was working at the Terran Intelligence Agency. Her job was to monitor the galactic situation and report on how the alien species were handling the crisis. The damage is worse than we expected, she reported to Admiral Lisa Hayes. The Zephyrians have lost 15% of their population. The Korthik Empire has collapsed into civil war. The Vex are facing species extinction. Any signs that they're learning to solve their own problems? Admiral Hayes asked. Some. The Zephyrians are trying to rebuild their power systems using their own technology. The Korthik are attempting to design new weapons. The Vex are working on alternative reproduction methods. But they're decades behind where they need to be. They became too dependent on human innovation. They stopped developing their own solutions. Admiral Hayes nodded sadly. She had not wanted to cause this much suffering, but the aliens had forced humanity's hand. For 40 years, humans had been treated like useful servants. Their contributions had been taken for granted. Their requests for respect had been ignored. Any change in their attitude toward humanity? Yes, the arrogance is gone. They're starting to understand that humans weren't helping because we were weak or eager to please. They're realizing that we were the most advanced species in the galaxy. Dr. Ryan Parker was in his laboratory, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. His shutdown protocols were working perfectly, but the consequences were more severe than anyone had predicted. We might have been too effective, he told his assistant, Dr. Carol Martinez. The alien dependence on our technology was deeper than we realized. Are you having second thoughts? Ryan considered the question. No, we tried the diplomatic approach for 40 years. We asked for respect, for fair treatment, for recognition of our contributions. They ignored us. Sometimes the only way to teach someone your value is to take it away, but innocent people are dying. Innocent people have been dying for decades while the aliens treated us like servants. The difference is that now they notice. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was holding its most important session ever. The Great Hall was no longer full of proud representatives making speeches. Instead, it was filled with desperate leaders begging for solutions. We need to face the truth, said Chancellor Kesville Farah. We were wrong about humanity. We thought they helped us because they were weak or inferior. We thought they were grateful for our attention. The truth is that they were the most advanced species in the galaxy, added General Thrackmore. They didn't need us, we needed them. But they helped us anyway, said Zix Prime 9. For 40 years they solved our problems and fixed our mistakes. And we repaid them with condescension and contempt. The alien leaders sat in silence, thinking about decades of missed opportunities. They remembered human diplomats waiting patiently while alien representatives argued about seating arrangements. They remembered human engineers working overtime to fix problems that aliens had created. They remembered human scientists sharing their discoveries while alien researchers took credit for the breakthroughs. What do we do now? Asked the Chancellor. We learn, said Zix Prime 9. We learn to solve our own problems. We learn to respect other species. And if we're very lucky, someday we might earn the right to work with humans again. But learning would take time, and time was running out. The galaxy was paying the price for 40 years of taking humanity for granted. The humans had left without a word, and now everyone understood why. They had been the most important species in known space, and the aliens had treated them like they were nothing. The price of pride was higher than anyone had imagined. 6 months had passed since humanity disappeared from galactic affairs. The situation had gone from bad to terrible to catastrophic. Entire civilizations were on the edge of collapse, and the proud alien species who had once ruled the galaxy were now begging for help that would not come. Ambassador Gary Mitchell sat in his small office on the trade station Deep Space 7. He was one of the few humans who had not returned to Earth. Gary had been born on this station and held neutral citizenship. His job had been to help human traders work with alien merchants. Now he spent his days reading desperate messages from alien governments. Please respond, read a message from the Zephyrian Republic. We are prepared to offer you full citizenship and a seat on our High Council. We need technical assistance immediately. Urgent reply required, said another message from the Korthic Empire. We offer you the rank of Admiral in command of our remaining fleet. Our military situation is critical. Help us, pleaded a message from the Vex Collective. Name your price. We will give you anything. Our species has only months left. Gary had received over 3,000 such messages in the past month. Every alien government in the galaxy was trying to hire human experts. They offered money, land, titles, citizenship, anything they could think of. But there were no human experts available for hire on the Zephyrian homeworld. Engineer Velkas was working 18 hours a day trying to rebuild their power systems. She was the best engineer her species had, but she felt helpless when looking at human technology. Any progress on the fusion reactors? Asked her supervisor, Director Morhaus. We've managed to understand about 10% of the basic design, Velkas replied tiredly. But the control systems are impossible. It's like they were designed by a completely different kind of mind. How long until we can build our own power systems using traditional Zephyrian technology? 5 years, maybe 10? But they won't be as efficient as the human designs. We'll need to rebuild our entire infrastructure. Director Morhaus looked out the window at his dark city. Half the population had already fled to the rural areas where life was simpler but harder. The great civilization of the Zephyrians was becoming a collection of small farming communities. The Korthek Empire was in even worse shape. General Thrackmore stood in the command center of his home planet, watching red warning lights flash on the strategic display. Half their territory was now controlled by rebels or independent governments. "Status report," he ordered his aide, Colonel Brockshan. "We've lost 3 more systems this week," the colonel reported. "The rebels have captured 2 of our major shipyards. Our remaining fleet is down to 12 functional vessels." 12? We started with 3,000? Yes, sir. The others are either destroyed or sitting in space unable to fight. Without human weapon systems, they're just expensive metal. General Thrackmore sat down heavily in his command chair. The mighty Korthek Empire, which had conquered half the galaxy through military strength, was being defeated by farmers with simple weapons. Pride had made them depend on human technology, and now their pride was destroying them. "Sir," Colonel Brockshan continued, "we've intercepted communications suggesting that some rebel groups are trying to contact Earth directly. And the humans are ignoring them too. They're not taking sides in our civil war. They're just gone." The Vex faced the most urgent crisis. Dr. Nix 7 Alpha worked desperately in her laboratory, trying to create new reproduction technology. But crystal biology was incredibly complex, and the Vex had never needed to understand it completely because humans had always managed their reproduction systems. "How many successful births this month?" asked Elder Zix Prime 9. 17. Dr. Nix 7 Alpha replied. "We need at least 200 per month to maintain our population. And our attempts to recreate the human biotechnology? We're making progress, but it's slow. We might have a breakthrough in 2 years, maybe 3. Our species will be extinct in 6 months. The 2 Vex stood in silence, understanding the terrible mathematics of their situation. They were the oldest species in the galaxy, with a collective memory going back thousands of years. But all their wisdom meant nothing if they couldn't solve. This one problem. Captain Danny Brooks was still patrolling human space, but the nature of his job had changed. The alien ships coming to the border were no longer military vessels making demands. They were refugee ships full of desperate civilians. "Captain, we have another group approaching," his tactical officer reported. "Civilian transports requesting asylum." Danny looked at the display. 15 ships carrying Zephyrian families. They were fleeing their homeworld as it descended into chaos. "Open a channel," he ordered. The screen showed a tired Zephyrian woman holding a small child. "Please," she said, "we're not asking for technology or help, we just want to live somewhere safe. Somewhere with power and clean water." Danny felt his heart break a little. These were innocent people suffering for their government's mistakes. But his orders were clear. "I'm sorry," he said gently. "Human space is closed to all alien ships. You'll need to find another solution." "Where?" the woman asked desperately. "Where can we go?" "Every world in our sector is failing. Please think of the children." Danny had to cut the communication. He couldn't let his emotions override his duty. But scenes like this were happening every day, and they were taking a toll on every human who witnessed them. Back on Earth, President Mary Thompson was facing the hardest decisions of her career. The reports from Dr. Susan Carter showed that the galactic situation was beyond anything they had expected. "The death toll is approaching 1 million, Dr. Carter reported. "The Zephyrian Republic is close to complete social collapse. The Korthek Empire has split into 7 different factions. The Vex population has dropped to critical levels." "Any signs of genuine change in their attitudes?" President Thompson asked. "Yes, the arrogance is completely gone. They're publicly acknowledging that they mistreated humanity. Several alien leaders have made formal apologies. But apologizing won't bring back the dead or fix their broken systems. They need our help, and they know it." Secretary of Defense Paul Harrison raised a concern that was troubling many in the government. "Madam President, we're receiving reports that some alien groups are trying to attack Earth directly. They're desperate enough to consider military action. How serious is the threat? Not very. Their weapons don't work, and their ships are failing. But desperation makes people do stupid things. Dr. Linda Stone had been analyzing the long-term consequences of humanity's withdrawal. We need to consider our own situation, she said. Earth's economy was built on galactic trade. Our scientific advancement benefited from contact with alien species. We're suffering too. President Thompson nodded. This was the hardest part of the entire plan. Humanity was paying a price for their isolation. Earth's population was restless. Trade had collapsed. Some humans were questioning whether the withdrawal had been worth it. The question is, she said, have we made our point? Do they understand now that humanity deserves respect? Colonel Emma Davis, head of strategic operations, had been monitoring alien communications. Yes, Madam President. The change in their language is dramatic. They're no longer talking about humans as servants or junior partners. They're recognizing us as equals, maybe even superiors. And are they learning to solve their own problems? Slowly. The Zephyrians are developing new power systems. The Korthik are trying to rebuild their military with their own technology. The Vex are working on alternative reproduction methods. But they're decades behind where they need to be. President Thompson made a difficult decision. Contact Admiral Hayes. It's time to consider the next phase of our plan. Admiral Lisa Hayes received the message while reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The withdrawal had achieved its goal. The alien species now understood humanity's true value. They had learned that humans weren't helping because they were weak or eager to please. They had discovered that humans were actually the most advanced species in the galaxy, but the lesson was costing millions of lives, and humanity couldn't ignore suffering forever. The time was coming to decide whether the galaxy had learned enough. To deserve a second chance, the aliens had discovered the price of pride. Now humanity had to decide if the lesson was complete. 8 months had passed since humanity disappeared from galactic affairs. The galaxy was broken, and everyone knew it. Billions had died, entire civilizations had collapsed. The proud alien species who had once ruled the stars were now fighting. Just to survive, on Nexus Prime the Galactic Council building stood mostly empty. Only 3 species still had working ships that could reach the neutral world. Chancellor Kesvel Thera, General Thrakmor, and Elder Zix-9 sat alone in the great hall that had once held hundreds of representatives. We have to try one more time, the Chancellor said. Her blue skin was pale and thin. She had lost weight because food production on her homeworld was failing without human agricultural systems. The humans have ignored every message for 8 months, General Thrakmor replied. He looked older than his years. The stress of watching his empire crumble had aged him badly. Why would they listen now? Because we're dying, said Zix-9. Sadly, my people have 6 weeks left. After that, the Vex will be extinct. Maybe that will mean something to them. The 3 leaders made their decision. They would travel to the edge of human space together. Not as proud representatives of mighty civilizations, but as desperate survivors begging for mercy. Admiral Kevin Lopez stood on the bridge of the UES Sovereign, the newest ship in the human fleet. He had been promoted to serve as humanity's first Galactic Relations Director, though there had been no galactic relations to direct for 8 months. Sir, we have 3 alien ships approaching the border, his communications officer reported. It's the same 3 leaders who have been sending messages. Kevin had been expecting this. Intelligence reports suggested that several alien species were close to complete collapse. The time for isolation was ending, whether humanity was ready or not. Are they requesting permission to enter our space? Yes, sir. They say they want to negotiate. Kevin thought about his orders from President Thompson. The human leadership had been debating this moment for weeks. The aliens had learned their lesson, but the cost had been terrible. Now, humanity had to decide if they were ready to engage with the galaxy again. Grant them permission to approach Earth, Kevin ordered, but maintain escort protocols. I want them to understand that they're entering our space as guests, not as equals making demands. Captain Nicole Watson led the escort formation that guided the alien ships toward Earth. She commanded 3 human vessels that surrounded the alien delegation. It was a polite escort, but also a clear demonstration of human military capability. On the lead alien ship, Chancellor Kesvel Thera looked out at the human vessels with new eyes. 8 months ago, she would have seen them as crude ships built by an inferior species. Now she recognized them as examples of the most advanced technology in the galaxy. "Look at their ship designs," she said to her aide, Minister Jorkaz. "Clean lines, efficient energy signatures, perfect maneuvering. How did we ever think they were primitive?" "Pride," Jorkaz replied simply. "We were too proud to see the truth." The alien delegation was brought to a space station orbiting Earth. Admiral Lopez met them in a conference room with a large window showing the blue and green planet below. The aliens stared at Earth with wonder. They had never seen a world that looked so healthy and alive. "Welcome to human space," Admiral Lopez said politely. "I understand you wanted to negotiate." Chancellor Kesvel Thera spoke first. "Admiral, we come to you not as representatives of great powers, but as survivors of a catastrophe we created ourselves. We want to apologize." "Apologize for what?" "For 40 years of treating your people badly, for taking your help for granted, for dismissing your contributions and disrespecting your achievements." General Thrackmore continued. "We thought you helped us because you were weak or desperate for approval. We never understood that you were actually the most advanced species in the galaxy. And we never appreciated that you chose to help us," added Zix Prime 9. "You didn't need us, we needed you, but we were too proud to admit it." Admiral Lopez listened carefully. These were the same alien leaders who had once treated human diplomats like servants. Now they were speaking with genuine humility and understanding. "What do you want from us now?" he asked. "Help," the Chancellor said simply. "Our worlds are dying, our people are suffering. We need your technology and your expertise to survive. And what are you offering in return?" The three alien leaders looked at each other. For 8 months, they had been thinking about this question. "Equality," said General Thrackmore. "Full partnership in all galactic decisions. Equal representation in the reformed Galactic Council. Equal sharing of resources and discoveries. Respect," added Chancellor Kesvel Thera. "Recognition of humanity as the leading civilization in the galaxy. Acknowledgement of your contributions to galactic society. And gratitude," said Zix Prime 9. "We will never again take your help for granted. We will never again treat your people as servants." Admiral Lopez studied the three aliens. Their pride was gone. Their arrogance had been replaced by humility. They understood now what humanity was worth. "I'll need to discuss this with my government," he said. "But I can tell you that humanity is interested in rebuilding relationships with species that are ready to treat us as equals." Back on Earth, President Mary Thompson met with her advisors to discuss the alien proposal. The debate was intense. Some believed the aliens had learned their lesson. Others worried that they were only being humble because they were desperate. "They're offering everything we asked for 40 years ago," said Dr. Linda Stone. "Equal representation, shared resources, recognition of our contributions." "But are they sincere?" asked Secretary of Defense Paul Harrison. "Or will they go back to their old ways once we fix their problems?" Dr. Susan Carter had been analyzing alien communications for months. Their internal discussions suggest genuine change. They're not just scared, they're actually understanding their mistakes. President Thompson made her decision. "We'll help them. But we'll do it our way, with our conditions, and with guarantees that this will never happen again." The Terran Restoration Project began 2 weeks later. Captain Nicole Watson led the first wave of human engineers back to alien worlds. But this time, everything was different. The humans arrived not as helpful servants, but as respected partners. Every human team included observers from the reformed Galactic Council. Every human innovation was clearly documented and credited. Every alien species had to provide human-trained personnel to maintain the new systems. Dr. Chris Baldwin, head of the new Galactic Technology Council, established strict protocols for sharing human technology. "We're not going to create dependencies again," he explained to his team. Every species will learn to maintain and improve the systems we give them. On the Zephyrian homeworld, engineer Velkas worked alongside human engineer Mike Torres to rebuild the power grid. But this time, Velkas was learning every detail of how the systems worked. "Why are you teaching me everything?" she asked Mike. "Wouldn't it be easier to just fix it yourselves?" "Because next time, you need to be able to fix it yourself," Mike replied. "We're partners now, not your maintenance crew." The Korthic Empire was reformed as the Korthic Federation, with human advisors serving as equals in their government. General Thrackmore, now calling himself Administrator Thrackmore, worked with human Colonel Sarah Davis to rebuild their military as a peacekeeping force rather than a conquest machine, the Vex. Reproduction crisis was solved within a month of human. INTERVNTION Dr. Ryan Parker worked with Dr. Nick 7 Alpha to create new biotechnology that the Vex could understand and maintain themselves. "You're not just saving our species," Dr. Nick 7 Alpha told him. "You're teaching us to save ourselves in the future." 1 year after the restoration began, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, now serving as Earth's first ambassador to the reformed Galactic Council. The new council building on Nexus Prime had humans in positions of leadership. Not sitting in the back row, the galaxy had changed. The arrogant civilizations that had treated humanity as servants were gone. In their place were humble partnerships based on mutual respect and shared responsibility. "Status report?" Jake asked his communications officer. "All sectors are stable, sir. The restoration is ahead of schedule on most worlds. The new cooperation protocols are working well." Jake smiled as he looked at the reports. Humanity had left without a word, and the galaxy had paid a terrible price. But from that suffering had come understanding. The aliens finally knew what humans were worth, and they would never forget it again. The new galactic order was built on respect, partnership, and the hard-learned lesson that taking anyone for granted could cost everything.